is 19th of June 2015, 1 week to go before the open day. Plants are looking good and colourful because of the warmer spring. Everything looks a little bit larger this year, particularly the giant Leucophylla, 020, 21 and 022. This particular one is grown in the peat-free mix and it seems to have developed a little bit more colour than its sister plants. Scanning across, Reggia's done well, and so has the giant Capensis. Multifida extrema is could do with a repot, and also the crestate. Also Capensis is doing well. Around here we have a mixture of hybrids which are not on my grow list yet. This is something I created using F45 and a shorter Leuco. Here's one of Miroslav's Adrian Slacktime's Leucophylla. It really is quite different. One of my favourites here is this fellow here, Perpinosa times Adrian Slack. Scanning across, a new batch of Hurricane Creek rights have developed. Helmut's Delight, next to it L57. Going down another Perpinosa times Adrian Slack. Really has got heavy nectar deposits all over the inner picture. Moving on, what I've done this time is I've moved all the shorter Sarracenia to this part of the greenhouse, and the main hybrid house is really the taller material. So it gives us a chance to really show off what these plants are really like, particularly the Xantho-free Rigliana. Now in the main hybrid house, we're looking at H257. This is a Hurricane Creek Leucophylla cross with minor Ocyphenochiensis from John Hummer, and this is the best seedling. Really tall, it's probably about 2.5 feet tall. And giant Morii, again with Adrian Slack crosses. Glider, can't miss these lids. And we're just going to walk down because obviously time is limited on a YouTube video. Donna's Delight, Llama, Flash, and this one, the Lear times Lear. This one came from a French grower. It's one of the best ones. Adrian Slacks, I'll try and scan on the lid so you can see how good they are. There's going to be a major announcement for Shropshire Sarracenias in the coming weeks, but what it will mean is the plants will have better growing conditions. More details to follow. There's Wilkerson White Knights, Red Topped Excellence. In the background, Johnny Wilkerson's Red Sky Dawn Alucard. This particular Morii is from Japan. Hill Wilkerson's. I've kept a couple of flower heads on, obviously I'm making some crosses with it this year. Brooks hybrids in the background, and in the foreground some more red Morii clones. You can see the success of this peat-free mix. In particular, I'm going to go back to the Brooks hybrids. This has been in a year. If you can see that down at the bottom, you can see there's no moss growing on the top, which is a bit of a bugbear for most Sarracenia growers. Helen Mary Timothy King, Elizabeth Hayden, looking very good. Esme Cowlard, again looking at the lids. Adrian Fawcett's Morii from Santa Rosa County. Crimson Queen. Japanese plant Bono, really love this. Other new plants, this is Sylvia Louise from Italy. And And this is a smaller piece of Morii the Beast. I've seen pictures. I can't wait till this one grows really tall. And assorted Leucophylla, Hadrian slack crosses. Some random hybrids. John David King. Praetorian Guard. With another red Morii, very slender one next to it. Looking at H155, it will develop a red patch in the throat, and also the really beauty H156. Little scan of the plants outside for a change. Here we're looking at 3 large clumps of flava. Being the 19th of June, they're somewhat backwards compared to what's growing in the greenhouse, but I live at 634 feet, and so these plants aren't as advanced as someone, say, living half that height. But at the moment the plants seem to be growing okay and in full bloom. Now in the Citacina Sarracenia lata minor house, A28. Half of them in peat-free mix, half of them in just a topping of peat-free. But again, it's preventing the moss coming through, and the plants are clean. No sign of any fungal diseases, and then now they're beginning to colour up. And we're moving on to see some of the really tall residiforms like A48, A46, A40. This is A26. This is the so-called black throat variety. Really lovely pictures. Just shows what a bit of difference a warm spring can make to the height of these plants. Now this year, the pups have really had a good time. We have guinea pigs in our household now, and I'm now feeding them guinea pig droppings. And you can see some of the plants are producing some larger traps than last year. This is a tip given to me by another grower. So, okay, well, they won't catch so many flies. You can see, especially on the Montana here, if you look carefully, you can see the last year's traps and the big ones are this year's traps. Quite a difference. Again, anything you see with a colour label is in the peat-free mix. Yeah, there's interesting plants I've noticed, a variegated Purpurnosa from Japan. This one just seems to be rampant. And moving on to the other ones, we have an interesting double-headed minor Leucophylla ensis picture. It really is quite something. The rubers are looking very tidy and clean. I've got to prune those flowers, which are just dropping their petals right now before the open date. And we're going on to the typical minors with the minor Leucophylla in the back. And the outer 3 minors have really taken to the peat-free mix, especially this one. Some very large leaves. On the floor, what I'm doing this year is I'm turned it into a Sphagnum moss farm. So I harvested the moss on a lot of the plants outside and growing it. This will be great for Darlingtonia compost, but give it some chance to establish itself. To give you an idea, a scale, each tray is 1 metre by 1 metre. Now into the Sarracenia flava house. Plants are big and colourful. So 1 more week to go. I know certain plants are still developing their colours, especially plants like F149, which we'll come on to in a little bit. The fans are on just to keep the air from getting stagnant. It's very good for preventing fungal diseases. Here is F149, and we know what that plant will do when it's fully coloured up. So we just need some strong sunshine between then. F153 is arguably the tallest, it's just topping over 1 metre tall. Keep the red ruffles. Going on to the Leucophylla. L9's looking pretty good, as is the giant pink lips. I've crossed this with a large lidded AI this time to see what would happen. I've crossed this one with what I consider the best antho-free flower. Peat-free mix for this Perdido red tube. Again, colour seems to be just as strong as growing it with peat. Leucophylla burgundy colouring up. And now we're going on to Bocasa, some decent sized pictures for this time of year. I've crossed it with a giant Regelii. The tallest Leucophylla this year is L86. Striped in throat, but real the show winner at the moment is L122, the Perdido red tube, but closely followed behind is Sarracenia Rubri Joyce from Japan and the famous L131, which had this electric pink colour, and it's turning over, so hopefully by the end of next week for the open day we will fully colour up. And there is another one of those crosses similar to L131, and then the rest of the flowers. Goldie looking nice and gold. The Telogia antho-free plant. Here's some crossings I made a few years ago. I'll show you some of the variants. There's a certain pleasure looking at plants grown on the ground. You can see the lids. Well, there's really quite a nice batch here. Now we're in the Venus flytrap house. The plants have been kept warmer this year, so obviously larger. That seems to be the trick with these. Various giant clones. Now, one thing I've found is that because of the sheer number of Sarracenia, these plants don't get really a look in terms of getting flies into this greenhouse. So we have two cats, and in the summer they don't seem to be that hungry, the cats. They seem to be more interested in eating birds, so the unused cat food is actually put on trays in here, so it smells a bit of rotting cat food, but it has a great capability of bringing flies in to this greenhouse, and it looks like the plants have caught quite a lot. So I'm hoping with the extra nutrients coming in that the plants will even put on larger sizes. This spider's really going for it at the moment. And on the top bench you can see the size of the plants and the carnage. So it seems to me warmth plus flies is the recipe for getting these plants larger. Just watching this fly, see if it'll actually get caught by the southwest giant. It's nothing like a live capture. Go on, backwards. Will it oblige? Yep, there we go, lunch on the underneath. The giant Darlingtonia has really gone for it, and Goliath, which is the largest clone I've ever seen in cultivation in the UK, is putting up some very large pictures. And here we have, this is an all red one with location, with these young pictures. Now there is a grower in Nottingham, Fred Green, who grows them in the tray method. I have to say, a lot of these plants are in this, and it works. The plants don't like to trail through the water. And here we have I started off a young colony of Lois glass. Let's see how it goes. Last but not least, it is my open day coming up in a week's time, and this is some of the sales plant selections. There will be some giant pink lips. Everybody likes the L45, which is a top plant, one of the Alba varieties. All in number order, all in species order. Glasses, complete rubra complex, Aureophylla, minors, various hybrids. Somewhere there's a red Sumatra. Moving on. Flytraps, and lastly the carniflora plants. These are really aimed at the Joe public rather than collectors. I think nearly every collector by now has something of each of these, but they are spectacular plants and they're really well selected. For future sales, I've put as the bench space is cleared, I've put my rising cuttings on. And you can see the benefit of having them in full light for a longer period of time. And look at these Adrian Slacks and Danas, Lears. All the best clones. What people want. Hopefully see a lot of you on the 27th of June. Thank you very much.